Hi, it is October 1st, and this is the beginning of our next tutorial. Now, I hope when I did the Christmas Carol tutorial, because we did do it a little bit smaller, that nobody was really confused, because I'm thinking of maybe redoing it. If I need to redo it, you know, let me know. But if you are wanting to make it a little bit bigger, I'm sure now you may have figured out you just make your base pages bigger. So if you'd like, leave me a message because I can do it again and we'll do it the bigger size. Now, gosh, I hope there's some lines there for October. And as I've mentioned before, that I'm going to be doing a monthly. Now I'm going to try and get 2 of them in this month. 2 free tutorials because I want you to see how you can use especially the graphic 45 or maybe the Bow Bunny paper and really not be afraid to cut it and display it. So I showed a sneak peek, and for this one I had used the ABC primer, and it's one of their deluxe collections that they brought back. And as you can see, the cover's not done, but it is also my new closure. And I'm going to show you how to do that so you have a nice side closure. And then we had what looked like a waterfall. But as we're opening this waterfall, you can see there is a lot more to it. You even have a storage pocket on the back, which is really nice. So there's going to be two ways. Now this is already done, so I'm going to do the construction of it by using a different graphic 45 paper. But as you can see, you can use the ABC primer, and I will have both paper kits available for purchase in the store at countrycraftcreations.com. Now the reason being I had to put them in a paper kit is this stripe paper, and actually this black is from a different graphic 45 line. It is from Typography and also Good Old Sport, because I wanted to stretch my paper and I didn't want to just use plain blank red or black. So I will have these available in the paper kits. The tutorials will be free and they'll be right here on YouTube. And then you'll get the buttons. You'll be getting the ribbon. And as you can see, there's some more of the, let me show you. This paper right here is actually from Good Old Sport, and it just went beautifully. I was really excited. Stripes, Typography. And we have this green stripe, which really added to the paper, and it is also from Good Old Sport. So these extra sheets, which are going out on Graphic 45 to be retired, you will be able to purchase them in your choice of the ABC primer paper kit or the one I'm using for this tutorial. And a lot of people have never seen the deluxe collector's edition of Times Noveau. It's absolutely gorgeous, and with Christmas right around the corner, I am using this one as we're going to make it as a recipe file. Now for the ABC primer for school, as you noticed, you can have kindergarten through 6th grade. And I thought this is going to make a really cute for the kitchen. It has its berries, the bee's knees. So we have some little cards that can be used for recipes, but it has that 1920s kitchen look to it. And we're actually going to be able to stretch this paper line by using some of the older paper lines, and that you'll be able to purchase right here at Country Craft Creations, because I carry all their papers basically that are still in print. So this one's going to be what you're going to watch this tutorial off of. But if you are making this for ABC primer, make it the exact same way. I won't change the sizing. I won't change, you know, anything there. So isn't that cute? Doesn't it just remind you of Grandma's apron? So we again will be stretching this paper line so it gives you the ability to use a few more of the graphic 45 papers. So let's get started with our tutorial. These aside. So you're going to want to start off with, we're going to cut 2 pieces of chipboard. I'm going to just use black because I have a lot of this in stock, and it's the same thing, just black, and you won't see it. These are 9 by 9. So that's what you're going to cut your chipboard 9 by 9, and you're going to want 2 of those. Okay, then you're going to want 3 9 by 2 3/4. So those will, this took just 2 sheets of 12 by 12, and then you will be able to also get these 3 pieces out of it. Now, being that this is an extra long album, I am using 3 sheets of the 12 by 12. So I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to use the Cartabella craft cardstock. I just love it, and it is a lighter, sorry, I'm getting some lines here, craft cardstock, and it really, let me see if that gets in the shadow. It really, I don't have blinds either, that's weird. It's a lighter craft cardstock, so it goes with absolutely everything, but it's good and sturdy. So we're going to start with 3 of these. Now, before we tape these together for our cover, you're just going to lay them out. You're going to put one on the bottom. Okay. Then we're going to just set one. Like I said, this is a long album, so we're going to set one piece. We are just right now setting these here to get an idea of our layout. So we're going to lay it out. This way we can move our seams. The important thing is right here, these seams. You don't want them landing. You don't want them to like land on the edge, especially one of your spines, because it's going to peel and crack and come up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 9 by 9, just lay it down, and it does need to come over here. Let me bring this down. It's going to need to come over. See this? And you're going to want at least 2 inches overlapping, so that when it's folded, then you won't have issues. And I'm going to go ahead and move this piece so that we can move these 2 down, and we'll sort of work in segments. So we're just going to, right now we're just laying it out like a puzzle. We're going to eyeball it. Next, you're going to take the 2 3/4, and you want to give yourself about 1/4 of an inch. Right now, no big deal. We're just getting an idea here. And then make sure you've got at least 1 inch to 2 inches. Okay, now let me move our paper down this way. It's okay, things move because they're not permanent yet. Now, you'll need to bring this piece back and just set it down. Now, you're going to want to probably pull that aside, and you want to put the next spine down, but you don't want it really on this crease here. And when you put these on and wrap your cover, once you mat it, you won't even see these. So then our next piece, and we're leaving about 1/4 of an inch right now, is going to be here. But see, I think that's too close. I need to have about 2 inches. So I'm just going to pull my top paper. I'm grabbing it and pulling it until I get a good 1.5 to 2 inches here between the seams. So let me pull this down. So here's our seam. There's plenty of room for wrapping. Okay. And then our next piece, which is the 2 3/4. So now I'm just going to move down. It's going to go on this end. And I can see that's going to be too close. So I'm playing with the pieces to my left. I'm going to move this one, making sure when you are working with covers that are, much longer, this is what I have found the best way for not wasting paper, is to just kind of play without attaching, sliding them around. And I'm just moving some papers over here to my left. And I'm going to move these down. I'm going to move everything. I'm shifting to the left because I need enough here to wrap. Okay, I'm going to bring this over. Now that I can see, and I know it's hard, you can't, the whole layout. Do you see where we have our two papers meet? So now I'm going to just make a mark here. This is where I know these two top pieces need to intersect with that. So now I can lift up my chipboard. And let's see if we can get a little more normalcy here. Now we've got quite a bit on each end. Whoops. Okay, there's my pencil marks. So I only need about an inch, inch and a half on each end. So I'm going to go trim these off. I don't need all of that. In fact, I told you wrong. You only need about half of an inch. Sorry. Okay, so now when I come back, the way I laid mine out, I have about a 7 1/4 inch by 12 inch piece of paper. Okay, now what I'm going to do, because we know that these need to be on top, I'm going to start with my 3/8 of an inch score tape. And I'm just going to go there. One on each end. 12 by 12. And then on my other 12 by 12. Shove it all down. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and remove your score tape. Now for the sake of videos, I'm just going to, mention score tape. If you're using a different adhesive, then, you know how you have to use it, like with the wet glue. You wouldn't be doing the whole thing at once. So now I've removed this score tape from the back of my full piece. And I'm going to just line it up on that other 3/8. Make sure my seams are together. So this one I've already taken off. There goes that score tape. Just repeating the same thing. If they're not perfectly aligned top and bottom, you're okay. You're going to be doing some trimming anyway. Okay, so let's start back with our chipboard pieces. So if you remember, I did it again. I meant to grab my 1/4 inch score tape before I started. Let me just grab that roll. So I grabbed the wrong side. I thought I had everything ready. Okay, so I'm going to put an extra one up here. Sorry about the noise. Okay. The reason I like 3/4 when I'm starting is because this is my spacer. So if you recall, we need to still lay out. I'm not going to add any score tape yet until I get things laid out once again, just to make sure that everything's going to fit. So you're going to start with your 2 3/4 inch, your 9 inch, 2 3/4 inch, 9 inch, and you'll end and begin with your 2 3/4. So I'm going to be moving these down just a hair. Now, what I'm going to do when I do longer albums like this, I like to make a tick mark, or just I go around the edge of the corner of my larger pieces. That just means I need to make sure that this is where this one starts. That's where my back cover starts. My front cover starts here. Back cover starts here. So we are good there. I'm actually going to start with my first cover that we're going to line up just to that little corner that we made. And when I'm doing my covers like this, I do use the 1-inch score tape to go around the perimeter. I'm just going to go down the middle. And it is important you do tape the inside or you do the glue. It's just like I've mentioned before with wallpaper. If there's nothing for this middle to grab a hold of, it will buckle or bubble, or it just won't lay flat. Now we're just going to line that back up. Don't worry if it's not perfectly straight at the top and the bottom. Push that down pretty good. Now this is our 1/4-inch score tape. We're going to use as our spacer. This is what makes or breaks your album on the edges. If you don't have enough space between your chipboard, it is going to rip your papers. Some papers, of course, are more prone at cracking and tearing. This is why I use Cartabella cardstock, and they will be coming out with more colors the next year. And G45, I adore it, but I will not cover. I have not figured out how to cover an album without it cracking, but I do mat it. So I have found that this works great, and that way I still get to have a beautiful cover. And when you wrap it this way, it also gives extra strength to your album. And if you're not wrapping your albums, your covers are going to break eventually. Use 3/8. And so you might be asking, I've got tons of score tape here. Yes, I have the 1/4 or 3/8 of an inch, and you're going to see me use this in all of my 1/2-inch score lines. And the 3/8 is just great for that. 1 inch I'll just use on my covers, and then my 1/4 inch is what I use to mat my pages. So I go ahead now and I'm going to remove. You don't have to remove it if you want it, if it helps you gauge where to put your spine. So you want it to just barely overlap it, the score tape. Put that down. Okay, now we're going to move this down, and we're going to go to the next 2 3/4 inch piece. stuck there. Sorry. Okay. My tape roll got kind of smashed. I had it in a box at a craft fair and it just kind of smushed, so it's not wanting to unroll there. This time I'm going to go ahead and leave the score tape on so I can show you the difference. And I'm going to go at an angle here just a little bit. Now you're going to notice something. As I'm putting this down, we're going to actually run into where I'd marked, and I figured that might happen because of the 1/4 inch, but that's why I start with my left hand side cover first. I never start with this one because we would have ran out of room on the left hand side. So now I am going to remove the score tape, because this is going to serve two purposes. If you've made an album this way with me, when you put your cover on the inside, it's going to nicely lay into this crevice, and you're going to have a really nice looking cover. Sorry, I just have to move this keyboard. Okay, so again, 1/4 inch score tape or whatever you have that you want to use to mark. You might want to just mark with a ruler if you're not using the score tape. So we're going to lay this cover down. You still should have a good 1.5 inches right there, and then you'll still have room to lay down this next piece. So let's go ahead and the score tape on. Now when we do the construction of the album, I'm only going to do the construction of 3 pockets because there are 7 altogether. And then I will go ahead and stop the video, and when we come back, so you don't have to go through 7 pockets with me. I mean, you'll get it after the 3rd one, I promise. You'll get it probably after the 1st. But then when we come back on the video, I'm going to show you how to put your pages together, and I'm going to do the full decorating on this one. I don't always do a full decoration, because if you also have been watching my videos, you know that I switch what I'm doing constantly. I never have a written out plan as to what my albums are going to look like, because they never come out looking the same. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm just butting that very softly against there, and then I'm pulling it away just to kind of make sure I'm getting an even top and pretty much bottom. And you can overlap the score tape there just a little bit, won't hurt anything. And once again, once I make an album, it really is hard for me to go back and make another one identical. That is why I'm doing this one from start to end. I'm not going to pre-make it. I'm going to do it from start to end so that you will get the full benefits. My husband told my son, don't even try to figure out why your mother does what she does. And he is very right. How many of you hear that in your household? Okay. Now our final piece. And I usually don't make my covers first unless I'm making these kind of albums. And then the other free tutorial I want to get in this month because of Halloween is my Rare Oddities. It's the album I made that is hingeless. So I'm hoping to get that one done so that you get both of these tutorials this month. Okay, I'll just get that on the edge. Okay, now what I'm going to do is turn this over now that we have all of our pieces down, and I'm just going to go over the back. Make sure let's see, your seams will be right there, kind of in the middle. And actually this looks pretty good. I'm not going to do any trimming. You can if you want to take that down to just 1 inch. I think it looks okay, and I'm grabbing my paper and I'm bending it up on the bottom against the boards. That is how I'm doing like a little score line. And I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to break those fibers and then the end pieces. This is a long album cover. Okay, that should be fine. Now, I'm going to do a little bending there. Not a lot in our creases, just to make it a little easier to move our album. Okay, more score tape. And this is the 1/2 inch. Now we're going to go all the way across the top. And then all the way across the top on your chipboard. Down both sides. Across the bottom. You might see my hand just down in the corner. I'm just doing exactly like the top. Then across the chipboard. And the side. Make sure it's all adhered. Now, your corners. I've shown this in other videos. You've got your corner here. You can actually take and just bend this back if you are needing that visualization right there. Or you can take, I'm going to show you a couple ways. You can just take your ruler. I see where the number, I don't know if you can see, there's the number 5, and then there's a line that starts. And I will kind of use that. Turn this up on its side. I use a box cutter and you can go across. That's another way. Or you can eyeball it and cut it. So it kind of just depends on your comfort level. Main thing is you don't want to get it too short. You need to have your ends meet and overlap just a hair so that you hide that chipboard. Okay, once you get that all done, off comes every bit of the score tape. When making albums, my main goal is not to show you all the techniques that are by the rule book. I want you to have fun. I want you to see that you don't have to have a rule book to go by, and you can make an album at any skill level. Okay, so we've got all the score tape removed. Now, I am starting, so you're going to see, I'm going to have to go back and forth like this. I'm about in the middle of my book, and the paper that I'm using is still a little bit stiff. So I'm going to have to just work it here just a little bit, because you want to make sure it comes over the chipboard at the top. You don't want any gaps. And I'm just going to stick it down really good there in the middle. I'm going to come down a little bit, because you don't want any gaps between this top chipboard and the paper. Right now I'm just pushing it down with my hands. I'm going to come over to this end, and I am pulling just a little bit because I want to wrap that chipboard. Now once you have it pretty much down, the flat side of a bone folder, do not go like that. You will poke that paper through. Okay. I'm going to turn this around because I work better when things are at the top like this. Once again, I'm going to do it right in the middle. And again, I'm just working it over the top of that chipboard. And the same, pull it down. And you know, it just depends on the paper that you're using. Like I've said before, this Cartabella cardstock. It's a nice firm cardstock. So I do have to pull it a little bit. Okay, now my sides. I'm going to do a little bending here, because it's easier for me to work. And I'm trying to get this in here. It's really long. It's easier for me to work on the ends this way because I like to push those in, and I know there's other ways. You probably could do it laying it flat. I don't know why that seems to be easier for me. And then I just make sure that that's down. Now you might want to use the side of your bone folder here. Make sure that corner's nice and creased. Then, once again, wrap that chipboard. Make sure it is, see, I can tell right now it's not quite. So I'm going to, there we go, push that cardstock. So I want it, don't want any bubbling there. Then you'll have that nice closed corner. Now right here, because there was no tape, you can go, you can tape that, but there's really, I don't, because I'm putting paper on the top of this, so I don't worry about that having that little bit of lift right there, because it's going to be covered. But if that bothers you, you'll want to go back right now and put a piece of probably 1/4 inch score tape right along there and right along there, if that bugs you. So, let's see if I can do it this way. That covers. I'm just going to push. I'm pushing that corner right there just so it's over the top. And then I'm going to work out any wrinkles here. There's 101 ways to do this. So if this is one of the first videos that you've watched, I'm sure you'll watch many more from different crafters, and so you will pick up your own style, and you might even see something that's easier for you to do than what I'm doing, and that's okay. Now, this is something different that I do, and you can either take, I use my Cricut tool for a lot more than just removing score tape, or you can use a pencil. This is a mechanical pencil with an eraser, because what we're going to do is, remember, we put that score tape here. Now we need to go along these creases. And do you see, let me bring this down, how that's getting a nice definition? It's not just bent over and catching between the two chipboards. We're getting a really nice smooth definition, which makes a difference because you won't have any bulkiness, and you don't have to worry about it not being stable. Now we're just going to, now we're going to push that cover over a little bit. Now, if I was doing any other method, because I've done hundreds where I didn't use this 1/4 inch spacer, there is no way I could push that all the way down. No way, it would have cracked by now. But because I've allowed room in between, you see that? It's really nice. Now, once we get the inside cover, you of course won't be able to do that. It's going to start getting a lot more sturdy. So I'm pushing this in quite gently, but I am using a little force there. Then we're going to bend our cover. Now you'll notice, see where the seam's at? It's not by this edge, and it's far enough in that when you mat this cover, it won't show. So let's move on to our next one. And if you are using, like I said, an eraser, see, that works too. You'll get some erasers, probably stuff on there. Okay, now I'm going to, now do you see how far I'm able to push that down? I mean, I'm not being forceful, but I can go further, and I'm not going to, I'm still going to be cautious, but I'm not worried about cracking. Once I know that it's pretty much attached to the score tape, then I can do some bending. Now, you should be able to bring your album. Let's bring the camera back in. Now you've got your album cover size. Now you're going to be able to bring it all the way together, and you can see now how that side closure is going to work. Now this is something you need to decide. When your album is down, do you want your cover to open this way? Or do you want the bottom flap to be on top, and you have that so that you can just push that down and then open? So that will be something you need to decide, because when you put the magnets down, which we won't put down yet, but you will want to make sure you decide, does this go this way so it's nice and smooth, or do you want it to go this way? Now, this is probably your biggest bulk of magnets. I'm going to actually use 3, no, I'll probably use 4 on this size. 4 large magnets, because I want a secure cover. I don't want it to come loose. Now, if you don't want to use magnets at all, you can use ribbon. So you'll bring your ribbon through your book and out here, and it will tie shut. So this is another benefit to this type of a closure. You can use that. Now you could also use a rubber band closure by poking the hole here, having a hole here, but it's going to be pretty tricky. So if you figure that out, you let me know. But I know it can be done. I tried it on a smaller album, just not one this big. So now we have a 9-inch inside, and we need to now cover this with our cardstock. So it's 9 inches, so I'm going to cut my 12 by 12 paper. I'm going to cut it 12 by 8 7/8. And I'm going to need 2 pieces. I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to check top to bottom. Make sure if that's enough gap. Now you can make this also if you don't want quite the gap. I mean, if you want more of a gap. I like it to pretty much cover the whole thing. And you will need to cut another one. And then you are going to need a piece. Let's see if one will fit. You're going to have a few extras, but you know what? They're not even going to fit. So this is going to take 3 pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock. But you'll still have enough to use for something else. We will be cutting then a piece off of this last one to go here. Okay, so let's get going with the score tape. Again, this is the monotonous part where you do feel like you use a lot of adhesive. Okay, I want to show you something else. When doing your covers like this, just notice something. We are going to have to do this one a little different. So when you're doing a cover like this, you see that mark right there? Well, this isn't going to work. This is going to get caught in that crease. So what we're actually going to do, we're going to take another 12 by 12 and we're going to cut it. So I'm going to start about 2 inches over here. Actually, see where my seams are. I'm going to overlap those. Then I'm going to overlap this one. Because it won't matter whichever direction we go, we're going to have this problem. So we're going to have this in the middle instead of the end. So I'm just going to go to this seam. So I have these 2 seams right here and right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this first. So I'm going to go cut that off. Now, when it comes to this one, let me get some lining up here. Okay, now I'm going to lay this one down. I'm not going to need it to be quite as long. I'm going to take it about half of an inch, overlapping. Make a mark. I'm going to cut that. Now we can go ahead and let's do our score tape here. Now you don't want to go up and down with your score tape. You don't want it to catch in this. So we're going to go across this way. Now I hope I haven't lost anybody at this point. And this is what will happen when you're doing larger album covers. Sometimes you will find that you have to start in the middle. And as you can see, I'm not getting it, I'm not worried about it being straight. I'm not worried about it lining up because it's going to be just fine, especially if you're using score tape. Okay. Now, remember we have our seams right here and right here, so you should have cut your paper to to just go over those a hair. Line up your top and bottom. Flat side of your bone folder. You want to be very careful in those crevices. Now, once again, you can take your eraser, or okay, I'm going to find where my folds are. Once I find it, and as I'm folding, because I want this top piece of paper to catch on that score tape in between. Now you should feel it's getting a little bit harder to bend, so I wouldn't force it all the way over. I'm going to turn it around to work on this one. The reason I don't like to use my bone folder here, but sometimes I will, see if you're going like this, it's very easy to poke through that paper. Line that up, make sure it looks good. It looks good. I'm happy with it. Okay, let's move over here to our left side, and we've already cut our paper. And then all these seams, especially here in the middle spine, it's not going to show because you're going to be doing pattern paper over the top. And once again, because I don't want any score tape to land in that groove there, I'm going to go straight across in the middle. And the orientation of the paper is that way, so I'm going to go across here. Okay, make sure you don't have any score tape overlapping. Line it up top to bottom with that other piece that we just put in the middle. Okay, once again, you're going to have a seam on that 2 3/4 inch flap here. So once you find it, let me see, I've got a spot here that's just not, there we go. Okay. See, I don't know if you can see that. I've got some paper wanting to bubble here for some reason. That's what I was talking about. Like a wallpaper. You don't want that like that. Okay. There, it's starting to go down in. Now you'll see it's getting a little bit firmer, a little bit harder to move in, but you should still be able to move your paper in. And it's lining up very nicely. And now we have the right hand side. And once again, I'm lining up this paper with my edge here. Now I'm bringing it up just a hair so I can see this bottom where it meets. And I have an idea of where I want it to be, so I'm going to take it about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, overlapping this piece right here, right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. Double check my fit. That looks good. And on with the score tape. Now I'm going to do something just a little bit different because that side wanted to bubble right there on my fold. So I'm going to give it a little extra help on this one, and I think it's because of the length of our book and paper. So I'm going to go ahead and have some score tape down there so I don't have that issue again. And I just took the score tape, you know, just right up to the edge. And if you are using liquid adhesive, you might want to just put a small bead right there. This one out of the way so we can. And I think I went the wrong orientation is the reason with my tape on that other side. I think I went up and down instead. Yep, I believe I did. That was why. So I hope you didn't follow my example. If you did, as you can see, no damage is done. Okay, fingers. Main thing is you want to make sure we line up here at this edge, but remember you've got some adhesive right there. So keep those fingers under there in case you have to pull it back. And then down it goes. Okay. And if you're a little off at the top and bottom, no fret. You're going to have your pattern paper. No one will even know it but you. Okay, now we're going to... I'm just turning my book around so I can work at it from this side. And that way it will be more in the camera for you to see. Oh yeah, that worked really well putting the score tape there. Okay, now when we bring our book together, it should come together nicely. And wasn't that awesome? You did that in about an hour's time. And what's wonderful about this is going to be an awesome Christmas gift that doesn't really take you forever to make. So there's our cover. I'm really happy with it. I think it turned out really excellent. Now what I'm going to do is I've decided the orientation, I want it so that the flap will come open like this. Remember we mentioned if you want it to come this way. Now here's the thing, if that's why we're doing this right now. If you put your magnets on now and you're like, I didn't want it to go that way, flip it over. You haven't done the inside yet, so you're good. So, but I like to get things kind of preset in my mind how I want it. And we're going to go with our large magnets. And I'm going to grab one more of those. And like I mentioned, this is going to be the bulk of your, magnets, your large ones, because you want to make sure your album stays shut. Let's see. I'm kind of missing one. Let's see what we've got here. There it is. They like to get stuck on other things. Like each other everywhere. They are fun to play with. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to open this. Now remember, you've got to have room for your paper, so however you want to mark. I like to use my mat right here. I just kind of lay it down on these markings. These are 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and then I just eyeball it. So when you're using the magnets, the basic gray magnets, they're wonderful. They are more sturdy than any that I've used, even the rare earth. I've had the rare earth ones, they do break. I've had them break right in half. So, but it's up to you what you are using or what you like. Whichever one you can use. Glossy Accents works well. It just takes a little bit longer. Or you can use the score tape or the adhesive that are on these. I just don't have great luck with it completely holding. So I just put a thing of score tape, remove it, then I do my first placement. Get my other magnets, maybe. And like I mentioned, you're going to want 3 or 4 magnets on this. And if you're talking, Christmas gift, well, you don't mind as much using an extra magnet or so, but it is a bigger, it's longer, so you've got to cover that space. And you probably could get by with 3. Oh my goodness. And you can put 3 on. If you decide it's not enough, then you can add that 4th, because we won't do the cover till last. But I want 2 pretty much in the middle. I have one just sitting here somewhere. I want to test it. So we'll go ahead and open this one. I just have an extra one. I'm going to bring this one out a little more. Now I probably will move this one. And there's no perfect placement here. It's just, I did get that one a little, there we go. Okay, now I can go ahead and remove the back of this score tape. I'm going to bring my cover up. Make sure it's going to line up, top and bottom. Now, turning it upside down, I have my bone folder going inside. Because this is going to be pretty tough to open. So there we go. Just give it a slide. Okay, I'm going to use score tape. You can go over each one or just all of them. Extra assurance that they won't come off. There you go. You have a secure album. It's going to stay tightly together. Not too tight that you can't open it, but it's going to be a good closure. So everything's held tight together. And if you still want, you can take ribbon through here around, tie it for, you know, decoration. Or if you don't want to use any magnets, then you can go ahead and do that. You could probably even use Velcro, as long as you somehow super secured it down, because when you go to pull, you don't want it to tear. And so that gives you your side closed cover. And what's really nice about it is you have this whole area now you can decorate. You don't have the flap coming over the top. You don't have ties in the way. If you don't, you know, it just gives it that really clean finished look. So this is the cover that we're going to be making, and what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and get the cover uploaded so you will have it, and then the next video we're going to do the construction of the pages. So keep watching, and that one will follow. I should have it up tonight so that you'll have it and you can start cutting all your papers.